Start to introduce some tension, rotation. Sometimes you miss one spot, second spot, then you like more height, put it vertical, keep on moving. And then when it's done, bring the structural element, and then I'm a girl who grew up in the rice fields in a delta in the south of Catalonia, and someone who immediately understood the power of design. I have been practicing as an architect making buildings with bricks. I've been directing an institution that has been producing exhibitions, competitions, and projects around the world. For the last 10 years, I have been teaching students to try to figure out not only what architecture has been, but what architecture could be. When people ask me, what do you do? I always say, I ask questions. My best asset is not to answer them, but to bring back a better question. What are the things that we really care about? What is that drives us? What is that we ultimately care? How do we design buildings? How do we design spaces? How do we design institutions that allow for a multiplicity of voices? What I like to do always is to walk through the streets and not necessarily learn through the histories that have been written, but observe the buildings and try to figure out what are the lessons that we can learn. And if there is something there that we want to rescue, because it operates, but because it still has an agency, because it still has the ability to do things today that resonate with us. We have produced a world that has been based mostly around business models. And I'm very interested in architectures that are based around idea models, because those business models do not allow us to collaborate and to practice in a much more open manner. And so many of the issues that I think I have been addressing and I want to address is how do we redefine architectural practice? As an architect, but also as a professor, but also as a director or a curator, I always say I'm a midwife in which I allow people to bring those ideas that they carry inside out. I like to think that I'm actually working with and for and against and next to absolutely every other architect, because we should take all ownership of the collective project that we are all building. When we think about architecture, over the last 20 or 30 years, we have been thinking about iconic buildings or iconic figures. But architecture is much more than that. Architecture is absolutely everything. Architecture exists in the social relationships, in the way in which we sit around the table, in the way in which we engage with each other, we open doors, we close doors, we construct paths. An understanding that we are designing constantly our interactions with each other and with nature and with the world and with the universe, if you want. Everything is architecture, and that it is not only about buildings, but about things that we are concerned. It's understanding that architecture is a way of caring. How do we rewrite history? How do we bring those voices that were forgotten, that were not invited, that were not included? And how, through the rewriting of that history and the power of architecture and the power of criticism, to understand the way in which we produce relationships, but also we solidify them, right? History solidifies relationships. Architecture solidifies structures of power. And so how do we change them? How do we realize them? How do we write them? How do we unwrite them?